Welcome to the Shred the Spread podcast, episode 11, Preview Thursday
11.
11. I am your host, Jared. As always, on Thursdays, we are joined by my co-host, my right-hand man, my partner
Yes,
in sports
sir.
betting, Dynell. Welcome back. How you feeling, man?
What's good, man? We feeling good. Once again, I told Vegas to bring me that money. I'm telling them to bring my money every week. I'm hot. I'm feeling good. I hope you're feeling good this week too, man. This is gonna be a tough week. It looks like these spreads are gonna be very tough, but we're gonna shred them. So I'm ready for it. Let's go ahead and get this money, man.
Hey, man, I'm getting hot. You're still hot. We saw each other at the cash counter for the first time in 3
Yes,
weeks.
sir. Yes,
It
sir.
was nice seeing you there, cashed out. Um, I kind of hit it on Monday, dude. I said we absolutely destroyed Arlene's on Thursday.
Didn't
Literally,
we?
I think I tracked them. I was like 13-3 on my leans. Insane. It didn't matter what I picked. It didn't matter what I parlayed. Something was smacking.
That's
The
all it
only
is.
pick, the only pick that I lost was the Bills, who took their foot off the gas. They should have won by 30. And the only pick that you lost was the Raiders. And I'm not. I know, you have a lot to say about them, but we'll wait till
Oh
we get to
yeah.
there
You
because
said
if
that was
we
the only
start on
pick.
it now, that was the only
You
pick
said,
that you got wrong was the Raiders,
hey, you know what? That's crazy. That's crazy.
isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I'm going right at yeah. Okay, nah, I
Yeah,
got it. I'm
yeah.
glad. I'm glad you told me that. I'm glad you told me that.
Because you had the Commanders +3 and you had the Niners -1. You only gave 3 picks last week because I gave 4.
Oh yeah, that's right for the spread. Yeah, for you talking about for the yeah the locks. Yeah, my
Yeah,
locks.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
our picks for the
yeah.
week. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, but other than that, dude, we killed it. For those of you who tuned in last week on Thursday, man, I hope you took some notes because we were sharp on a lot of spots. Um, it was awesome. Let's do it again. This, as Dynel said earlier, is a tough slate, man. You have to be extremely sharp. Um, I would be surprised if there was a lot of profitable parlays. It looks like it's going to be a straight bet week. Get your 3 to 4 favorite spots if you can find that many. Hammer them, and
Some you might got to force.
let's make some profit. Let's put together a teaser. Um, this might be teaser week, so um, just looking very quickly. Bills are in another fantastic teaser spot. Um, there's a lot of teams you could tease. We're not going to hit on it now. We'll hit on that Saturday when we go through. But all right, we got some good games to get into. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of discussion on these games. So let's hop right into it. The first game on the slate, the Thursday night football showdown. The Philadelphia
Yes,
Eagles,
indeed.
14-point road favorites, are heading to Houston. We're getting a little battle in Houston with the Phillies and the Eagles. This is going to be an ugly game.
Very
We
ugly.
we keep getting swindled by the NFL. They know there's only one game to watch. They know we're going to watch it. We once again are getting a shitty team on prime time. Luckily, we have a good team that will be putting on a show, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. The total for this game is 45.5 points. Unfortunately, Jordan Davis will be out for this game. He is dealing with that high ankle sprain. And a big question mark on the Houston Texans side is Brandon Cooks, who is questionable with a wrist slash and personal designation. And I'm assuming that has to do something with the trade deadline. Let's just say this could get really ugly really fast. Well, you know, giving a lean on this one off rip, it's got to be the Eagles, right? 2 touchdowns just doesn't seem like enough points.
I mean, yeah. I mean, because I'm not even with the Texans getting 14 points. I'm not taking the Texans. I think it's more of just the fact that the Texans are honestly looking to tank. I mean, like you said, Brandon, they're about to rest Brandon Cooks and probably just sit him out just to hoard his trade value, make sure he doesn't get hurt, so they can trade him off. I mean, these are all signals towards a decline in production. And honestly, the Eagles are riding high right now. This offense is steaming. AJ Brown 3 touchdowns. this past week. I mean, why? I mean, how can you not take that negative 14 points at this point? If anything, I'm leaning towards the Eagles on this one, no doubt.
Yeah. We've been hitting this for 3 to 4 weeks in a row now. I'm literally on this train every week for those of you who keep tuning in. You can get the Eagles first half for -7 right now. I mean, that is insane. They've covered every single week for the first half. I think they are the best second quarter team in all of football. I think I saw a
Yes,
stat
indeed.
last week where the Eagles have scored more points in the second quarter than the Steelers have all season.
You heard that?
So
You heard that,
just
America? You heard that?
just in the second quarter alone, if you take the points away from the Eagles in the first, third, and fourth quarter, just the second quarter alone, they have scored more points than the Steelers have scored in every quarter of the whole entire season. Um, so that right there always makes you feel good about the first half spread.
Easy money.
Well, once again, if you can get that first half for a touchdown or less, it's my favorite bet from this game. Obviously, if you're taking a side, it's got to be the Eagles. 14 points, you're hitting it right on the number. Um, Now, if you get to like 14 and a half, 15, you it's hard to take the Eagles because there is that backdoor probability that is open. But regardless, if you told me the Eagles win by 30, I don't think anybody would be surprised. You basically have one of the most dominant run teams going against the 32nd ranked defensive DOA against the run in the Texans. The Texans can't stop shit. The running back falls for about 8 yards a carry. The defensive linemen basically carry him to the first down marker at this point.
Yeah,
The Texans look very bad. I'm to the point
atrocious.
where I think the defense just lets the offense score so they can get the hell off the field and sit on the bench. It's
Now, I mean, it's funny. After looking back at it now, they gave up 38 points to the Las Vegas Raiders, and they couldn't put up a point this week. So,
they couldn't put up a point against the
uh,
Saints.
at
So
all.
I think that says all it does right there. Derrick Henry, I'm pretty sure. What did he have last week? Derrick Henry had
200.
219 yards on the
Yeah,
ground, 32
yeah.
carries, 2 touchdowns. He averaged almost 7 yards a carry. Even Hilliard
Trumping them
came off
boys.
the bench, 8 carries for 83 yards. He was averaging 10
Oh my
rushes.
God.
I mean, it's ugly. Their defense is horrendous. I don't believe the Texans scored anything meaningful in the first, second, or third. They did get a field goal in the second quarter, but they scored that garbage time touchdown, so they put up 10 points, which it really should have been three. Uh, the Texans are bad. Their defense stays on the field the whole game. Their offense doesn't get first downs, and now we're looking at Brandon Cooks potentially not playing. I would do my best to stay off of everything Texans team total under. It's just if this overhead doesn't hit, it's strictly because the Eagles didn't put up 46 points by themselves. Um, but yeah, Eagles first half, Eagles minus
Free
14.
bet.
It's just
Hmm.
anything on the Texans is just disgusting, and you're just clenching your cheeks all game. Um, but that's going to be one of those Thursday ugly one team massacre games, and
Terrible. I mean, we just can't get one. We can't get one good Thursday night game. No, no, not one. I just really got this Amazon Prime membership to watch some football, and I'm about to see the most atrocious football through Thursday night football history. Honestly,
I mean we're getting a daily dose of the Broncos. The Buccaneers just looked horrendous
let's
against
ride.
Baltimore.
Right.
The NFL has us by the balls. They know we're going to watch it regardless. So hey, let's throw a shitty team on prime time and watch them get destroyed. And that's what will happen Thursday night. So we'll watch another Eagles victory. They will move to 8-0. Don't even have to worry about the jinx because the Houston Texans are just that bad. But let's go ahead and start hammering some of these Sunday games. Uh off rip. This is a difficult one. The Panthers 7.5-point road dogs are heading to Cincinnati to play the Bengals. The total for the game is 42.5 points. Bengals are still without Jamar Chase. Chuba Hubbard still kind of banged up, not sure if he's going to play or not. PJ Walker has the set in stone starter role, and we will see if DJ
Yes,
Moore can
indeed.
keep his helmet on.
Shout out PJ. Yeah, shout out to PJ and DJ. And so DJ, you kind of fucked it up, low key, but still shout out to you. Without you, you still would have got the tying touchdown or the winning touchdown, honestly. But
And he took his helmet off. Whoop de doo. But Eddie Pinero, can we hit a damn field goal, bud? Not only did you miss the extra point to win the game, they got you an interception, ran it back to the 25-yard line, kicked like a piss. You could piss that far, and you missed that one. So the Panthers, devastating, devastating. Lost to the Falcons, gave the Falcons solo first place lead in the NFC South. Who would have thought that the Falcons in week 8 or after week 8 would be leading the NFC South? Not me. Not me.
with Cordero Patterson on IR,
Their most
on
explosive
top of that,
offensive weapon is out. And, not that he's playing, but Calvin Ridley traded to the Jaguars. I don't dude, I don't know if you saw that trade condition, but it's insane. It's like if Calvin
huh?
Ridley gets reinstated by this day, if he plays this day, there's like, whoever constructed this offer might have been one of the creators of the Pythagorean theorem. Whatever way happens, this
Yeah,
breaks out. There is a result for every circumstance, and I had to stop reading down the trade description because I was getting so damn confused. I almost forgot who got traded in the first place. But anyway, we got the Panthers 7.5-point road dogs going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati just looked awful, awful on Monday.
oh my
Me
goodness,
and Donnell
oh my goodness,
both,
cost me money.
there was some sharp money coming in on the Browns, but I really just could not put money on the Browns. Every time I take the Browns, they screw me. Every time I bet against the Browns, they
Yeah,
screw me. If I see the Browns, I'm just going to X the damn
yep.
game off going forward and then call it a day. I'm tired of betting on them and against them. I keep getting kicked in the balls. What do you like in this game? Panthers, Bengals, 7.5-point spread.
Oh wow, that's the thing. I don't know if I don't like any other side. I mean, this is tough. I mean, once again, I was talking about earlier how I wanted to see how this Bengals offense looks with Jamar Chase out of this lineup. And a lot of people were telling me, "Oh, they still got Boyd, and oh, they still got Higgins," and yeah, they do. But once again, you're taking your most explosive weapon off the field. Now, how do you operate without that weapon? And they did not look good at all. That old line got wrecked. I mean, absolutely wrecked. It's tough. I mean, I would say this is still not a team. This is still not a caliber defense that's like the Browns. So I would, if I have to pick and lean, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole, but if I'm leaning, I will go Bengals -7.5. Call me crazy, but Bengals -7.5.
I can't hate you for that because let's be real. The Panthers stink, okay? The only reason they were in that game against the Falcons was because the Falcons also stink. That whole division stinks. But let's be real. Just off rip, it looks like just there's a tiny more percentage of the bets on the Panthers. The money is coming on the Bengals. And I agree. The Bengals are coming off a pretty ugly loss. They have a full week to prepare, recoup. They need this win. They're 4-4. They need this
Need it.
win for that division. And I think they have to come into this game with a different game plan. We also have to remember, uh, we were basically talking. We're waiting for that Joe Burrow explosion game, and that happened against Atlanta. Um, then they went out and laid an egg against the Browns. Joe Burrow also had a really good game against the Saints. So, just basically looking at these trends, when Joe Burrow has a down game, the next game he kind of explodes. So against Atlanta, Joe Burrow, let's see. Joe Burrow threw for 481 yards and 3 touchdowns. He did have Jamar Chase, but
Money.
Boyd still had 8
Yes,
receptions
he
for
did.
155 and Higgins had 5 receptions for 93.
Exactly.
Okay? So
Right.
then We go to the Browns game. So after a good game, he had a bad game. You go to the Browns game, Joe Burrow had 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also had an interception and I believe a fumble.
How
That
many
interception.
how many times did he get sacked that game?
Oh God,
You happen to
Cleveland
see that?
defense
Yeah.
sacks. They had 5 sacks.
Yeah, this guy. Yeah, once
Yeah,
again,
the offensive line
destroyed.
either shows
That
up
front line
or
got
they're
destroyed.
outside in the parking lot. They're just the inconsistency is insane. They did have a good game. The other, I want to say it's the Saints. I don't think the Saints are getting that much pressure.
Yeah. Nah, yeah, the Saints.
But
He had time in
yeah,
the world.
so when Joe Burrow faces a blitzing team, he usually dominates. The Browns didn't send that much pressure, but they were getting to the quarterback, and that itself obviously is a recipe for disaster. If you're only sending 4 and you're getting sacks, Myles Garrett was causing havoc. The guy was the
Wrecking
guy you
havoc.
would have thought he was walking through an automatic door at Walmart. When he went forward, the offensive lineman split,
Yo,
and there was Joe Burrow, free game. Uh, what's
you know
up?
what's funny? You know what that reminds me of? When Miles Garrett on Halloween put all those quarterbacks in a tombstone in his little graveyard out in his backyard or front yard or whatever, and he had Joe Burrow up there. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. He definitely put Joe Burrow right in that casket and right right under his front
Yeah,
yard. That man is
that guy
gone.
was
He
not
was
he
dead
was not
last night.
playing with that offensive line. But I think you nailed it, dude.
Right.
I think the sharp side is the Bengals -7.5. Um, it is difficult to bet just because the Panthers are coming off a solid win. It wasn't. I mean, they should have won that game. That's why I keep saying that. They're coming off a disappointing loss from last week, but truthfully, they probably won that game. They were giving several opportunities to win that game, and that was a game against the Falcons, who I think they changed score like 10 times. They alternated scoring like 7 to 10 times, and the only time a team scored twice in a row was in the fourth quarter when the Falcons, I believe, scored that touchdown, then that field goal or back-to-back field goals. So they're coming off an alternating scoring game against a decent Falcons defense. The Bengals defense
Right.
probably a little bit better. I think one of their corners
Yes, I would assume
one of
so.
their corners got banged up last week. I meant to double check that on the scouting report or the injury report before we started. Correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, I think it's that guy
yeah, I
with
don't
the
know for
really
sure.
long last name. I can't remember. I'm not going to sit here and blow smoke up your guys' ass. But the Bengals -7.5 feels like the only side I would touch. I don't see this line going back to 7 unless heavy money comes in on the Panthers. But like you said, dude, it's hard to bet this game. I probably wouldn't put it in my official picks, but I definitely, like you, would lean Bengals.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Take it.
Okay. Let's move on to the Packers and Lions. You know what?
Another tough one. Another
We
tough
have
one to me, to be honest with you. I
we
think
have
it's
tough
another
ones
tough one.
for basically the rest of the slate besides 1 or 2 spots that I really like. Packers -3.5 road favorites against the Lions. Hey, like I said last week, when the Lions are at home, they score points. It is insane. Motor City Dan Campbell, I don't know what he does. I don't know if it's the hard knocks. I don't know if it's the smell of nasty diesel fuel around Ford Field.
Eat your
The Lions. Yes,
Motor City. You
the
smell the Motor
Lions.
City.
Dude, they put up points. And I said they may not win that game, but they will put up points. And they did. I think the Lions didn't even. The Lions had 27 points last week, and I don't even think they scored in the second half. Let me double check. The Lions last week
Sheesh.
against the Dolphins.
Cowboys
Yes, they scored
Dolphins,
every
my
single
bad.
one of their point in the second half. They were outscored 14-0 in the second half, which the Dolphins even have. Listen, I said I love this over. This over basically hit in the first half. There was only 14 points in the second half, and the over was 52 points, and it smacked.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Smacked it.
offenses are explosive. Now here's the thing. I don't quite feel as strongly on the over this week, and here's why. The Packers in the second half against the Bills looked fresh. Josh Allen, I think that was his worst half of football this entire year. He even had better halves against the Chiefs, which is wild because that game was extremely competitive. So
Right.
Josh
Very
Allen went into
close.
halftime with like a 14 or 17 or whatever point lead it was, or 20, and
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were going to come out the next half and just stomp on their neck. The Packers, Jair Alexander in particular, seemed to have a fire lit under his ass after Stephon Diggs, Isaiah McKenzie were running free down the middle of the field. So they made some adjustments.
Facts.
Jair Alexander made some big plays, and they made that game look competitive. The Packers actually covered. It would have been 7 points, but Mason Crosby missed that 55-yard field goal basically at the end of the game. So Packers lose by 10. The Lions, this is why I don't necessarily feel as strong in the over. Number one, the Lions just faced the Dolphins. The Dolphins lacked pass rush, and now that they addressed that with Bradley Chubb, huge pickup. The
Yeah, disgusting.
the
That's
Dolphins
great.
lack pass rush. They were struggling to get to Jared Goff. Jared Goff and Tua combined for like 475 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. That is insane.
That was a crisp ass. That was a crisp ass play, man. Quarterback play was great. I mean, quarterback was definitely great, but once again, no
Yeah,
pressure, right?
it's embarrassing from the defensive side. Granted the Lions didn't score any points in the second half, but the Dolphins didn't force any turnovers. Here's the difference with this Packers team. They have pass rush. This Packers team,
Definitely
their
fun.
only strong suit of their defense is Jair Alexander and their pass rush. They get pressure on the quarterback.
Preston Smith.
Jared Goff cannot get the hell out of the pocket to save his life. He is a standstill target. He is a statue who will get killed if the Packers can get pass rush. They just lost TJ Hawkinson. That is huge.
To a
That
trade.
is
Yeah, that was
huge.
big time.
So
Big time.
instead of throwing to TJ
Mm-hmm.
Hawkinson, I guess they're throwing to Jesse James. I'm not sure who the second on that depth chart is. That is
You said yeah, Lions, right? Yeah,
that is a
Jesse James.
huge drop
Yep.
off. So they lose TJ Hawkinson, which is the middle of the field threat, which they need against a Packers pass rush. And now they have Amon-Ra St. Brown to try to carry this load. That's not going to work. You have Jair Alexander shadowing him this game. If he shadows him the whole game, this Lions team might not put over 15 points. If also I believe DeAndre Swift is banged up. Dan Campbell said if he plays, he's going to be limited.
I was.
So
Oh Jesus.
that
Yep, there
right
it is,
there
right
is
there.
difficult. So
Right.
it's hard to take a side on this game. I definitely think this is a get right spot for the Packers, but my God, they're so inconsistent on offense. They just lost. I can't remember the one guy, the guy who just got a concussion last game.
Watson. I mean,
Christian Watson.
Christian.
Christian Watson.
Yeah. Christian.
I think it's
It's
Christian
Watson. Yeah,
Watson.
it's Watson. Okay, I think it's Watson.
Aaron Rodgers said basically that hurt their offensive game plan because they had a lot of scheme plays drew up for him to get him involved. So they started getting production from Dobbs. He had 4 receptions on 7 targets, and then Torre had a tremendous readjustment play in the end zone where he scored a 37-yard touchdown. Aaron Jones, 143 rushing yards. AJ Dillon 54 rushing yards. Those two are the staple of the Packers. They have to play well in order for them to win. The Detroit Lions don't necessarily have an amazing defensive line. They're definitely competent, but a 1-2 punch with the Packers running backs is going to be difficult to stop for this Lions team. So, with the combination of the loss of TJ Hawkinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown trying to take over the main workload on offense because DeAndre Swift is also banged up, it's going to be difficult for the Lions to not only win this game but cover. So definitely not going back to the over on this one. I think a big piece that I kind of want to wait on before I take a stab at this game is if Elgton Jenkins plays, the offensive lineman for the Packers. He is big. He is big to that team. He is a solid offensive lineman. His DVOA stats are not bad when he's in the game for the Packers. So I definitely would like to see if he plays or not before I take a stab at that game. The game's going to be ugly. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, last-minute drive. Aaron Rodgers probably takes it home. I see the Packers probably win this game by like 4 to 7 points. So it just depends on what side of that touchdown or that game-winning drive you're on, if the Lions cover that spread or not. It's going to be close. I think Vegas got this. I think Vegas really got this number right, as they did for a lot of these games. I think 3.5 is spot on. It's just whatever way the ball rolls exactly. So this is a difficult game to bet. The total seems a little high, in my opinion. I see Packers, like, I think this game is like Packers 24, Lions 20, somewhere around there. I think that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Here's a quick stat. Packers are 0-5 versus teams 500 or above, but 3-0 versus sub 500 teams, and the Lions are 1-6, I believe. Lions are 32nd in DVOA defense, 32nd against the pass, and 30th against the run. This team is almost as bad on defense as the Texans. Um, I think this is a bounce back game for the Packers. Like I said, as much as this shows the Packers should whoop their ass, I definitely agree this should be a dogfight. And I would not be surprised if this is a low-scoring game where Packers barely cover. So I think early lean, I think both of you and I can agree that it's probably the Packers on this one. Hey, thanks for listening. This is Jared. Just a quick update. We've had quite a few technical difficulties within this episode. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for listening. I have done my best to maintain as much raw audio as possible. Unfortunately, with the in and out of the technical difficulties, we did lose the rest of Dynel's voice recording for the rest of the podcast. So I will do my best to accurately cut my audio, and then I will finish out the few games that we have left with just myself. So I do apologize again. We are looking for some new software and equipment to use on the episode. We will have a more in-depth episode on Saturday as well as our picks. But again, sorry for that, and let's finish out the episode. Thanks for listening. You know what? We've got a 1 o'clock game that involves your least favorite team in the NFL right now. Derek Carr last game, because Devontae Adams had 3 receiving yards or something stupid like that. Derek Carr, he was 15 of 26 for 101 yards and an interception. They let Andy Dalton have 117.2 QBR. Andy Dalton threw 22 of 30 for 229 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kamara had 9 receptions for 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Saints were getting whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. That Raiders team looked pitiful. And now they're heading to Jacksonville to play another pitiful team, The Jaguars coming off a pitiful loss to the Broncos. I know I'm saying the word pitiful a lot, but it suits the scenario. Jaguars are coming off of some ugly losses. The last 4 games for the Jaguars. Let's see. Oh God, the Jaguars lost to the Broncos 21-17. They lost to the Giants 23-17. They lost to the Colts 34-27, and they lost to the Texans 13-6. Um, you know, the Jaguars really only had two good games this week or this year. They scored 24 against the Colts and shut them out week 2, I believe. And then they beat the Chargers 38-10. Other than that, this Jaguars team has looked lost. I know when Doug Peterson first took over and they started off the year like 2-1, there was a bunch of jokes saying, "Oh, Doug Peterson is tied with Meyer for most wins in Jaguars franchise history." It's funny. It's irrelevant. But since those first 3 weeks, this Jaguars team has been in a downward spiral. You know, they're getting manhandled by teams they shouldn't be. The game against the Broncos was ugly. It was an under game. I loved that under. It was one of my favorite plays. I don't know why I didn't make it an official pick. It's just something with the Broncos. Like we keep saying, Russ is so due for an explosion game. But this one is difficult. Yeah, I mean he's the guy. I think the guy's thrown 2 accurate deep ball passes this year, and they've both went to KJ Hamler. That's disappointing. But here's the thing: the Raiders. I'm holding hope for them. I'm holding hope. But it's difficult because the Jaguars are home dogs. And, these teams' defenses are playing awful. And, like, and rank, just regular rank statistics. Because, Trevor Lawrence struggles against pass rush. His decision making is immature, and you can see it because when teams blitz him and they get good pressure, he struggles to make decisions. The Raiders are 32nd in the league in sacks. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. They let up the 24th most first downs in a game. They let up the 29th most third down conversions, and they're 31st in red zone efficiency on defense. They're just overall, they've let up top 10 in points allowed. The Jaguars are going against a team that can't get any pass rush. That's scary because if you give Trevor Lawrence some time to make decisions, maybe this is where he figures it out. I don't know. This is a difficult one. When I first looked at this line, I was like, Raiders. See, I would also lean Jaguars here, and this is why. When they played the Texans, they let up 20 points to the Texans, and we know the Texans stink on offense. The Texans put up 404 total yards on offense. They ran 10 more plays. They had about 300 passing yards. So this Texans team put up 20 points. Now here's the kicker. The Texans had a pick six. They didn't convert in the red zone at all. They went for it on 4th down in the 4th quarter. And, this game got ugly, and the score doesn't reflect actually how close and competitive this game was. Because for a while, this game was a game. It was Vegas 3-0. Then it was 17-10 Houston. Then it was 27-17 Houston. And then the Houston Texans made several mistakes, turnovers, and got outscored 21-0 in the 4th quarter. They outscored the Texans 21-0 in the 4th quarter. And that was the difference in the game. If the Texans could score one time and not throw a pick six, the Texans potentially win that game. And I think that speaks more volume to me than the Texans struggling last week against the Titans because that was a Derrick Henry takeover game and he controlled the whole game on the ground. When you've this when you gave that Texans team possessions, they were competitive. And I think the Jaguars are better than the Texans. So, just using those two variables and that bit of statistics, it just makes sense if you're going to take a side here to take the Jaguars. It's ugly. It's disgusting, but it makes sense statistically. And if you're 50-50, if you're flipping a coin, uh, there's no advantage to that. So, this is basically what this game is. So, we're at home. It's a coin toss to me. You're at home. Give the advantage to the Jaguars. Close your eyes and take the Jaguars. Exactly. Just, if this Jaguars team can get some pass rush on Derek Carr and they can slow down Josh Jacobs, we see when Derek Carr is the only form of offense that the team struggles. But no, the Raiders stink. The Raiders lose this game. They're favored. The wrong team's favored. Jaguars win this game outright. Um, that's enough beating on that. Let's go to the Chargers and the Falcons. Chargers -3, Falcons +3 in Atlanta, and the total for the game is 49.5. Boy, give me the dog. Give me the dog. Falcons +3 in Atlanta, and the public loves the Chargers. This Chargers team, not only does this Chargers team also stink, that whole damn division is sad. The whole damn division. It's well, that's that's the Kings division. Andy Reid and Mahomes, they run that shit. The rest of these teams in that division bow fucking down. How dare everybody in the media to say that that whole division is up for grabs and the Chiefs need to watch out? How dare they? That is Andy Reid's division for as long as he lives. This Chargers team, not only do they stink, their head coach is horrendous. Staley needs to get ran the hell out of town. He needs to. You know what? The same thing applies with the Raiders to the Chargers. Seriously, we don't even need to hit this like we just hit the Raiders. We can say the same shit. It's stop Austin Eckler, you win the game. Because Justin Herbert, he's going to throw the ball too much. He's still young. He's still trying to develop. Don't get me wrong. The guy's got all the intangibles. He's huge. He has a strong arm. But that team has to control the ball with Eckler in order to win games. Their defense has been struggling for some reason. They've been struggling, and I don't get it. And on top of that, we're not going to sit here and act like the Jaguars didn't put up 38 on this Chargers team. You know what the Chargers didn't do against Trevor Lawrence? Well, get to the passer. They couldn't pass rush for shit. Let's just say this. I keep saying the Packers. What the hell? The Chargers sacked Trevor Lawrence 0 times. 0 times. That's all I got to say. If you can't sack Trevor Lawrence, imagine trying to chase around Marcus Mariota all game. Give me a break. Okay, we've had a little bit of some technical issues, but we'll just go ahead and finish off this Falcons and Chargers game. Chargers, like we were saying, we didn't really want to hit on it too much. They're not playing well. Falcons are, besides last week and that game against the Bengals, they've been covering the spread pretty effectively this year. So we're just going to go ahead and roll with the Falcons. We'll take the 3 points. That gives us a chance the Falcons can win outright. They can lose by up to a field goal. Seems pretty safe. Seems like a good early lean, but we will see how it plays out Saturday. We got a pretty solid game from one side going here. This kind of reminds me of the Eagles and Texans. This team obviously isn't as bad as the Texans, but I have a feeling this is going to play out the same. The Buffalo Bills are heading to the Jets. Not that big of a travel. Total for this game is 47 points. The Bills just did receive Nyheim Hines for James Cook. I think that's a huge pickup. Oh my gosh, so much that really turns the tide and opens up so many offensive plays for this team because, you know, they really didn't have that receiving back slash true running back. And Hines is going to open up so many gadget plays, some more options for Josh out. Like, dude, that is just, I can't wait to see how this game goes. But the Bills are 12.5 point favorites, technically on the road. I mean, we got to go with the Bills here, right? Um, well, here's the thing. A lot of shit is just pointing to take the Jets. Uh, the Jets have been solid this year. They're getting 12.5 points, which is a lot. But this is this is just this is just a really a feel game because number one, the Bills are gonna do whatever the hell they want, whenever they want on defense. I mean on offense. And the Jets defense they're good, but how do they stop this team? They don't have the matchups for this offense. Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie, Devin Singletary, and now Naeem Hines. There's not that many playmakers on that Jets defense. Sauce Gardner can only cover one person at a time. That's it. And if they run zone, Josh Allen demolishes zone. If they man up, their receivers can run past anybody down the field, and Josh Allen can throw the ball from the 1 to the 1 on a line. The dude can throw the whole football field on a line, on the run, at that. Give me the Bills here, dude. It's not enough points. Uh, if you get over to 14, if you get over 14 points, now we can talk potentially the Jets because 2 touchdowns with the Jets' solid defense where they can kind of slow the game down. Now we're talking. But anything up to 14, you got to take the Bills. I just don't see it. And if he struggled against that Patriot scheme, could you imagine how he's going to do against this Bills scheme? Oh my God, these guys fly around on defense. He's gonna, dude. He's gonna get baited into so many passes. Uh, I could also see this getting ugly as long as the Bills don't take their foot off the gas in the second half, like they did against the Packers. I could truly see a 30-point blowout. I would not be surprised. Um, but yeah, so let's go over to a team we were just talking about, the Patriots. The Colts are heading to New England. The Colts are 5.5 point road dogs. Patriots 5.5 point home favorites. The total for this game is 39.5 points. This is ugly, dude. We got to roll with the Texas legend, don't we? You don't think, dude, Sam Ellinger bounce back game, truthfully, had a decent grip on that Commanders game. He did. He truly did. But Taylor Heineke back against the wall, got it done. Now here's the thing. This is definitely a weight line for this one reason. Earlier today, Ian Rappaport tweeted, Jonathan Taylor is dealing with that same ankle injury, the one that held him out for 2 weeks. That's huge because they don't have Naeem Hines anymore. So that's huge. Okay, yeah. But you got to remember, last time this team played with Deion Jackson as their main back, he caught like 12 passes. He didn't run the ball very well. He was a receiving back. That's also what Naeem Hines was. So what did they do with James Cook and Deion Jackson? We don't know. If Jonathan Taylor is out of this game, you are also out of this game. There's no way in hell you could take the Colts. It's just the Mac Jones has not looked good is the problem here. If Jonathan Taylor is out, if Jonathan Taylor is in, then it's hard to even look at the Patriots because because Mac Jones has not been tremendous. They had that pick six against the Jets that got called back, which flipped the game. Huge. That's huge. So that alone is scary. Colts have Stephon Gilmore. The guy's no joke. You throw his way, he's going to make plays. God, this might be the total is so low, dude. This might be an under game. Oh my God. I could see this game being like 13-7, 13-10. Yeah, the big question mark here is Jonathan Taylor. Does he play or not? Yeah, Mac Jones hasn't looked good. And there's kind of a trend. If I like an under, I generally like taking the team that's getting the points. In this case, 5.5 points is a significant total, or is a significant number with this low total. So I think early leans, I'm definitely leaning the under, and I'm leaning the Colts just for that game script scenario that I kind of have the feeling of. But it's strictly going to come down to the injury news: who plays, who's in, who's out, and then you have to make your decision from there. Um, but this is an interesting game that we're going to move on to. The Dolphins at Chicago. The Dolphins are 5-point favorites on the road in Chicago. The total for this game is 45.5 points. I think this number might get to the Bears +6. So if you like this, hold. But Dolphins just got Bradley Chubb and Jeff Wilson. Bears basically just traded Roquan Smith for Claypool in hindsight because of the draft pick that was used. So the defense for the Bears was struggling to stop the run anyway. So they said, okay, the hell with this. We're going to go get a weapon for Justin Fields. So they went and got Claypool. I'm telling you what, dude. If this number gets to 6, I think I love the Bears. It sounds crazy. But if this number gets to 6, I think I like the Bears. Now, it's very situational. I liked this number at 5 before the Dolphins got Bradley Chubb. Then I was like, shit. But then I saw the Bears got Claypool. And, we saw what Jared Goff did to this Dolphins defense. It's not like this Dolphins pass defense is anything spectacular, because they're not. But you have Darnell Mooney and you have Chase Claypool. And then Cole Kmet isn't anything special, but he definitely can run the middle of the field. They've got some weapons. And I'm very eager to see how it looks. They're in Chicago. Like I said, the key number for me is 6. If it gets to 6, I think I like the Bears. Anything below that, I think I stay off. So that's the contingency for me. So that brings us to the Vikings heading to Washington. Vikings are 3.5 road favorites. Commanders +3.5 at home. The total for this game is 43.5 points. And this one is a key game for the Vikings. They're getting Hawkinson. This will be his first game in the new deal since he got traded to Minnesota, which is a weird trade because he did get traded within the division. So I'm trying to figure out if this was like a Hawkinson okay. The line said, forget it. We already suck. This is an interesting trade. Definitely the Vikings need it because Irv Smith is dealing with that injury. But I think a lot of people are going to jump on the Vikings here. And what my advice would be to hold your horses. The Commanders, for the first time in like 12 or 13 years, just had a double-digit comeback in the fourth quarter. And they did it with Taylor Heinicke. Taylor Heinicke is clicking on all cylinders with Terry McLaurin, and that is a scary recipe for success. Terry McLaurin is one of the most explosive receivers in the league when he gets a lot of targets, and he has a higher volume in receptions. Generally, the Washington Commanders are in competitive games. We already know Kirk Cousins, generally against good teams, struggles to cover, struggles to win at that. The Commanders have been hot. They've been underdogs the last 2 weeks. They've beat the Packers, and they obviously just won last week in the comeback against the Colts. The Vikings are a better team than the Colts. There's no question about it. But you're still getting the Commanders at over a field goal. I would not be surprised, honestly, if this line goes to 4. I think a lot of money is going to come on the Vikings. But I would say hold. If you like the Commanders, see if you can get this at 4. I really don't think I want to touch the Vikings in this one. I think I'm really eyeing the Commanders. Another solid spot for a teaser. The total is 43.5 points, so it's a semi-low scoring game. This will have to be one I keep my eye on a little bit more, but early, I think I like the Commanders, and it sounds horrendous, but I think that's what I like. So this takes us into the 2 4 p.m. games. The Seattle Seahawks are traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals. Cardinals are 2-point home favorites, and the total for this game is 49.5 points. This is a similar circumstance to when these teams last faced off early in their season. It was an ugly one for both teams, to say the least. The total for that game was supposed to be like 51, 52 points, and it was a very low-scoring game. I think sub 30 points. It ended up the final score being. You got to roll with the Seahawks here, right? The Cardinals are one of the worst teams at home. I don't know why they're 2-point favorites. I know DeAndre Hopkins being back is a crucial element to that team, but Geno Smith is just balling out. We've been talking about it all year. For several weeks now, Geno Smith has not disappointed us, and he keeps being undervalued by the bookmakers. You can still get the Seahawks plus points. I think the only game that they were favored was last week against the Giants, and they handled business. The Giants are playing better than the Cardinals. Granted, the Seahawks are at home, but the Cardinals are a terrible home team. For some reason, Cliff Kingsbury does not get that team prepared correctly at home. Kyler Murray struggles at home. We'll see what they do with DeAndre Hopkins, but this is a prove me spot. The Seahawks, I think they win this game. The Cardinals only had 3 offensive points last time these two teams faced off. 3 points, 3 offensive points. Their defense outscored their offense, and their defense has not been playing that well. I think that says enough in itself. DK Metcalf was playing, and he played well. He's hurt, and he's playing well. Tyler Lockett is getting behind the defense more than not. I don't know, dude. The Seahawks they've been undervalued all year, and I think this is another spot. I love them I think me and Dynell are most likely going to put them in an underdog round robin. They're just a wagon right now. You have to keep riding it. Now, we have a tricky one. The Rams are heading to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay are 3-point home favorites, and I can see the public being all over the Rams. 2 bad teams right now. Why not take the points? Why not? I have been against the Buccaneers. I was heavily against them last week, and the week before that, we were like, how do you take the Buccaneers here? Well, let me tell you. I have a feeling that this is a Buccaneers get-right spot. They're at home. This is a low total. I don't see... And this isn't more so of like, I think Tom Brady's going to throw for 400 yards on 4 touchdowns. This is a more so, how the hell are the Rams going to move the ball? Seriously. How do the Rams move the ball? Cooper Kupp is struggling. You know, he's day-to-day, but he's going to play. Allen Robinson is a ghost. Cam Akers doesn't want to play with this team. The offensive line is shitty. The defense is playing weird. Matt Stafford is throwing interceptions. Granted, he didn't throw in last week, which was incredible considering it was against the 49ers. But Christian McCaffrey not only threw for a touchdown, ran for a touchdown, and caught a touchdown pass. The trifecta. I think the first running back to do it since LaDainian Tomlinson. But give me a break, dude. The Rams plus 3 seems like such a trap. If you're struggling to take a side, the under at 42.5 is definitely worth keeping an eye on. Because, truthfully, how do these teams put up 42 points? You saw the Buccaneers against Baltimore. That wasn't pretty. We saw the Rams against the Niners. That for sure wasn't pretty. If we get a little bit more depth back from injury from this Buccaneers secondary, we're going to have a defensive game. And these two defenses could easily hold each other to under 20 points each. No problem, no questions asked. If we get some depth back from the Buccaneers on the defensive side, keep an eye on the under. Otherwise, I think I'm going to keep my eye on the Buccaneers minus 3. I've been saying I want to ban them from betting because it hurts my heart. But when I look across the field and see who they're playing against, this poverty Rams team, which potentially might be the worst team in their division, but for some reason still is like top 10, 12 in Super Bowl odds, it doesn't add up. Let's go over to Sunday night. The Titans are heading to Kansas City, playing in one of the toughest environments at Arrowhead Stadium, prime time Sunday night. You're telling me the Titans are getting 13 points against the Chiefs on prime time? Well, if there's one thing you and I know, it's that Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't seem to cover these big spreads, especially in prime time. He loves letting teams hang around and come through the back door. And the Chiefs win the game, but they win it by a small margin. And everybody who bet on the Chiefs, which is usually 80% of the public, bets on the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes. They get screwed. That's not going to happen this week. I am not getting backdoored for taking the Chiefs. 13 points seems extremely steep. And, you know, there's a few teams where, from the opposing side, you know, if there was like the Texans, if the Texans are in the Titan spot right here, I take the Chiefs minus 13. You know, there's a couple teams. But the Titans are one of the teams where they don't throw the ball a lot. They keep the ball on the ground, they limit turnovers, and Derrick Henry is at least going to get 100 yards. At least, because he has such a high carry volume that as long as he can maintain the control of the game on the ground, he gives the Titans a chance to stay in this game. Ryan Tannehill is a game clock and game manager. As long as he doesn't turn the ball over, you're giving a lot of opportunities for Derrick Henry to break free a run. And even if he breaks free a run to the opposing side of the field and gives the opportunity to kick a field goal, every single point counts when it comes to 13 points in a spread. That's what we have to remember. We're not playing who's better. We're playing a race to a number. And 13 points is steep on prime time, especially for Patrick Mahomes, who seems to struggle these big spreads. Give me the Titans plus 13. I actually really like it. I'm not sure where the public's going to come in on this one because it is a big spread. And usually, you know, even square players can say, oh, 13 points in the NFL, give me that. But we've seen a lot of big spreads this year. We have seen a lot of big spreads. So, would not be surprised if Titans are the public dog. We have to remember public dogs have fleas. So we have to do our best to maneuver through these public dogs to avoid fleas. But, yeah. So I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. We don't cover Monday night. We do that on the Monday recap episode. If you made it all the way through this horrendous production of a podcast, thank you so much for listening. We had an astronomical amount of technical errors and Dynel popping in and out because we do this remote. We are not at the same location when we record our podcast episodes, but we are doing our best to come up with an external backup plan. So if this does happen again, we have an alternate source to maintain our audio capture. But we will be back Saturday. We will give our official picks. We will most likely have a more in-depth episode to kind of catch up on this last half of the slate where you didn't necessarily hear his opinion as well. We obviously, when we're together, we do better because we bounce ideas off of each other. We can talk each other off of bad spots that we're potentially leaning, and it makes us more successful on Saturdays. So we will touch base on Saturday. We will go through these games very briefly, but we will give our official picks. We're looking to stay hot. Dynel's been hot. I got hot last week, and I'm seeing the board well right now, and that's what it feels good. My picks are getting a little more confident. But as always, this has been Preview Thursday, episode 11. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you Saturday.